everyone, this is the great Lord and Master, Osiron the Eternal, or the artist formerly known as the Great Roberto, coming at you in live action. Okay, it's been a little while, been a couple weeks since my last trip report. Man, what a wild, this isn't a trip report, but man, I could have made 1,000 videos about what happened that day. That was the hardest fucking thing I've ever had to live through. That trip was vicious. But let me just say, it was vicious and hard, but it was still had this sense of love and nurturing aspect to it, but it was hard. It was hard, and man, you know, I probably will make another video about it. I should, but this video is specific to a topic that is about cannabis, and it's about a new way that I've sort of discovered to use cannabis and make it an even more empowering tool for greatness and accomplishment. And what this is I've always said that cannabis is a feminine sacrament, or whatever, but it is, and that's why using cannabis is so good when you're doing things like yoga, dancing, sex, as long as you're not too stoned. I mean, if you get too high, sex can be fucking challenging if you're too stoned, because your mind starts to run rampant, and you don't want to be so fucking stoned that you're fucking out of your mind. That's why I still say, doing small micro doses is the way to go, because I've been using only, it depends on what device I use, but it'll be anywhere from 0.03 to 0.06 of a gram, which is minuscule. And that depends which vaporizing device I use, because this one here, the Lotus, is the one I use, 0.03, but this has a tiny bowl. This has a tiny bowl. You can fit a little bit in, so this is great. I love this. This is my, I love this thing. But, yeah, but using smaller doses is ideal, because you still get plenty high, I'm telling you. I mean, after I do a session like that, I am not, I'm not feeling cheated. I don't feel fucking like I don't feel like I'm being aesthetic or something like that, punishing myself by not doing, it's not like that. I mean, I'm plenty high and I feel plenty good when I do that. It just, truthfully, honestly, like I've said before, less is more with cannabis. But again, that's why cannabis is so good for dancing, yoga, anything that, cannabis is ideal for anything that can be done in a trance state. Dancing, yoga, even aspects of martial arts, can be done in a trance state. So anything that you can do in a trance state, cannabis is an ideal tool to help you do that. But again, not too much, because if you do too much, you tend to cross the line, And also, one quick comment I want to make about the mushrooms is, truthfully, it may just be that taking too much of a dose of mushrooms is not the way to do it. I mean, I should know this by now, but taking too much mushrooms is hard. So I can almost say, through my experiences, anytime I've done more than 5 grams, it's been hard, very hard. But anyway, this isn't about mushrooms, so I don't want to spend too much time there. But the thing that I've been doing with cannabis lately, and this goes hand in hand with my exertion principle video I just made, but what I'll do is I'll use cannabis, and I'll do yoga and all that stuff too, but at some point during the high experience, what I'll do is purposely focus on masculine, stylized exertion efforts and push through that, and sort of so while I'm doing these things, these, you know, exertion efforts, you know, these things that would be more considered masculine, like, you know, mundane tasks, chores, fucking whatever, anything that requires focused, deliberate thought, I'll do that while I'm high, and it's sort of like adding a resistance band to the activity. It's sort of, so the cannabis makes doing those certain tasks more of a challenge, more difficult. So it's like adding a resistance band to the activity, because you have to push through it a little bit more. You have to push through it harder. You have to put more focused attention on it. So it's sort of like a training exercise. So I've been doing that lately. You know, anything that involves, anything that involves, focused, deliberate, pinpoint exactitude of mind, would qualify for that. Versus the trance state, where you just can let go and sort of let things unfold and blossom on their own, like a dance. Even yoga can be like that. Because if I'm high doing yoga, it's easy to fall into the trap of routine, or not fall into the trap of routine, but get stymied by the routine. So if you're doing, if you're used to doing a certain yoga set or a certain yoga routine, and you deviate from that when you're high, that can cause a lot of mental chaos, a lot of mental turbulence. So what I try to do with yoga when I'm high is sort of just adapt to my flows and not do anything that's too rigid, you know what I mean? But at the same time now, in a different phase of the high, you may want to do that. You may want to do, like, a perfect example of that would be certain martial arts aspects, such as, like, kata, or other pre-patterned, choreographed moves, would be something to do when you're in a different phase of the high, to work that exertion principle and build those muscles of concentrated focus. Because there's one thing that I have trouble with, is that, when I'm high, doing anything that's choreographed, or anything that would qualify as, the masculine, focused intent. A good example would be like doing math in your head. If you're trying to do math in your head when you're high, there's a pretty good chance you may have trouble, because that's a masculine act. And when I say masculine act, I mean focused, deliberate. Your focus is refined to one task and one point. That's what I mean by that. So yeah, so being stoned is a good way to exercise those muscles of exertion, to make it a little bit harder. And you keep doing that, and I'm sort of still new to this aspect of it. Now, for me, this is something, I know a lot of people probably do this every day, because I know a lot of people get high every day, all day, and they go to work and they do all this kind of shit. So for them, what I'm talking about may not even register as anything, because that's what they do every day anyway. But I'm talking about being more cognizant of what you do and how you do it, in ways to make what you do better, to make yourself better in every aspect of what you do. You also have to keep in mind that I was a person, I was a teenage pothead, and one of my favorite things to do was get high and play hacky sack. One of my greatest late teen memories was getting stoned with my friends and playing hacky sack. But then I stopped all of that shit when I was 21, and then on my 22nd birthday was when I quit smoking cigarettes. That was the demarcation line of the big change for me. That was the line in the sand where, things change. I stopped smoking weed before that, but then I quit smoking cigarettes on my 22nd birthday. And then after that, I was fucking, focused on training my body. I was running, swimming, biking, martial arts, classroom martial arts started then. All of this, masculine stuff that I was doing started then. So I stopped, cannabis wasn't even a part of my life at all, except on the rarest of occasions. Every now and then I would smoke a joint, and back then I would fucking regret it because I didn't like what cannabis did to you back then. To me, getting in a state, a tranced out feminine state like that was not something I wanted at all. And I didn't like it, and I fucking so. It was easy for me not to use cannabis back then, so I spent years and years and years and years focusing on, training my body, being fit, this cannabis was not something that I even gave a fuck about at all, you know. And then it was only, it was only like in 2014, in the summer of 2014, 2 years ago, that I reintroduced cannabis, and that was after I started psychedelics in 2013, in early 2013, so a lot of my hardest trips and weirdest trips were without cannabis and all that. So for me, cannabis actually is a relatively new interaction again, and I've been trying to incorporate it into my life in a way that is most um, beneficial as I can make it be, and I'm pretty happy with how I've done that. I've integrated cannabis into my life in a responsible, in what I consider to be a fucking healthy manner, where it's not too much of a. I mean, of course, you are going to change. Cannabis will change you. Already, look at me. I look like a fuck man. My hair's growing long. I'm growing my hair long. I fucking walk around barefoot all the time now. All this kind of shit. So cannabis will change you, but if done right, for the better, I would say. But yeah, but for a long time, cannabis was not a part of my life, and so so the people who haven't taken a break from cannabis and just use cannabis all the time and go about their lives like nothing is nothing. They're doing what I'm talking about anyway, without knowing what they're doing. You know what I mean? They'll get stoned and then go run errands and do all that shit. You know what I mean? Because I know if I get high, the last thing I want to do is anything. Especially if I get really high. If I get really high, the last thing I want to do is anything. That's why I don't like to get super stoned anymore, because there is, again, going back to the less is more aspect. 0.03 of a gram is fucking the sweet spot for me. It makes the high experience better, because you're not so fucking blasted that your fucking mind starts running rampant. And one of the things that, I may even make a video about this specifically, but one of the things I've learned recently is that other people who have had very deep ego death psychedelic experiences, the cannabis experience changes for them afterwards. Because I thought that was just me, but no, it's a pretty common thing for the cannabis experience to change for people like us who have been there and done that. Cannabis almost takes you right to the threshold of the non-reality matrix again, if you do too much, especially. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, even at 0.03 grams, I find myself in that place. So I mean, less is more, but. Yeah, so anyway, using cannabis as a tool to build the muscles of masculine exertion. Using cannabis as a resistance band tool to build the muscles of masculine exertion. A new way to use cannabis in the most productive and empowering manner that you possibly can.